Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on, good question, March 29th, 2025 at approximately 9 p.m. PST. Now, I made it my life's journey to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I build myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day to day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies that I guide virtually every decision I make by. With this in mind, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have literally worked for thousands of other people over the years with varying degrees of success depending on their own personal efforts. Now, before we get into it, in the background, we have Storm. He is running all of the tech to make sure that things do run smoothly as best we can. Because as you guys see, periodically when I'm running a day in the office, tech doesn't always cooperate, and there's nothing I can do about that. Okay, but Storm is also the one to make sure that all the problem children stay outside of the playground. Okay, and do not ask me how he finds out which ones are problems before they get in, because some people have this idea. Oh, I'll change my name and then I can get in. Unfortunately for them, somehow Storm will find you, and you're going to get bounced right away anyway. Now, do understand this stream has got to remain a safe zone for virtually everybody. Bullies, if you're not being bullies, if you're not being dipsticks, you will be permitted to stay and listen and participate. Moment you step out of line, guess what happens? Okay, I believe the phrase is don't let the door hit you on the way out. Now, with that in mind, what we got to remember is that we also have LA floating around. She's the one that pops in to make sure that the conversation continues. And of course, keeps a real close eye on what my health is doing. Because Lord knows that gets screwy. But we're not going to go very far down that road. Today, we are going to be looking at that intriguing thing that people go, oh, that's the root of all evil. Okay, this is about the importance of money, not the fact, oh, if you've got a lot of money, you're a better person. Rest assured, in case you hadn't noticed, a lot of money does not necessarily bring out the best in people. Now, I know it's caused problems for me. Okay, if I look back, one of my biggest holdups with letting money come near me, I can actually chalk back to when I was 18 years old. We had a neighbor who they were an absolutely head over heels in love with each other couple. They won $10 million. Less than a month later, they were divorced. Well, they were in the middle of a heated divorce. Now, money was not the cause. Okay, money is one of these neat little things. It is necessary. Okay, it's what we use for trading, for deciding what's being done. Okay, it gives a quantifiable balance point. But you got to remember, just because you've got money does not make you a better person. Take a look at well, they're billionaires. Most of them have no clue what it's like to be on the bottom end, to have to struggle to survive. Now, here's where money comes in handy. It's a quantifiable something that you can put a tag on and go, that's how much it's worth. Okay, there is no argument at that point. It's just give me $1 of the local currency and you get $1's worth of goods. Now, understand, we have been taught to ignore the money that's there. You have been taught as a society, so was I, by the way, so I should really go, we have been taught that, hey, I got an idea. Let's borrow beyond our capacity to repay. And then we can get all the stuff, default on what we owe, and we still get to keep the stuff. Now, I'm not sure about you. Okay, I know about me. This doesn't work well. Okay, money itself is simply a quantifiable method of deciding on an exchange rate. Now, from my standpoint, it's simple. It's easier to move a $10 bill than a 500-pound cow. Okay, so bringing it down into dollars, and for those of you worried about digital, sorry guys, digital makes sense if it's handled correctly. Think about it. Can you picture? Now, we already know we're getting off this planet. Okay, and for people to stand there and go, this is a quarantine planet, this is a prison planet, we are isolated, we're not allowed to leave. There's a lot of coming and going. Okay, money itself, you're not going to get that kind of gold bullion off the planet without an even bigger expense. So having a digital currency in and of itself is not a problem. But what we do have to remember is you've got to start, doesn't matter what state you're in, okay? Just let's get that straight. Starting now. It's time to learn one little detail. Money is not the root of all evil. Greed, or more to the point, fear, is a bigger problem. Operation Shutdown. Operation Shutdown is going, Keith, do you have an opinion on cryptocurrencies? Absolutely. But understand this, and understand it very, very, very clearly. Okay, I am not a financial analyst. So when we're talking about this being my opinion, this is what I act on. I wouldn't touch cryptocurrency of any form with a 150-mile rod. I wouldn't touch it. Okay, there is absolutely, in my understanding of it, there's no backing to it. And frankly, I'm a firm believer that working for what you're doing to get ahead is so much better than a promise of, oh, sink a little bit of money in here. Okay, you put a little bit of money in here and all of a sudden you're a millionaire. The fact of the matter is that in 90% of the cases, as far as I understand it, 90% of the cases, people get a lump sum win. Within 3 years, they're in worse shape than they were before the windfall. Okay, now understand, I just said that about cryptocurrencies. I won't touch the stock market, okay, for pretty much the same reason. But I will tell you this, I never learned to respect money at all when I was growing up. As a matter of fact, in a lot of ways, I learned to fear it. And I'll get to that in 5 seconds here. See, what I found was every time people all of a sudden have a lot of money, it's like their IQ goes on hold. They forget that money is still money. I knew a chap that lived on the street by choice. Okay, and somebody tossed a can into his basket, like a empty pop can. He goes, "Thanks very much." I don't know why he did what he did. The guy says, "Thanks very much," and the chap walks off. And this guy, I only knew him as Paul. He looks at me and goes, I really don't need this. But he said, look, I smoke anyway. So taking a can down to the grocery store and getting a nickel off my cigarettes makes sense, literally. But he says, think about it. A nickel is a nickel is a nickel. If you're a pauper, a nickel seems like a gold mine. If you're a multi-billionaire, you probably don't even notice them unless you're wise. And rest assured, I've seen a lot of questions around that. I will tell you this. There's an old axiom that says, man is not judged by the height to which he climbs, so much as by the depth from which he has climbed. Now, I will tell you, I can give you all kinds of examples of people, and this is one thing I don't include in any of the books I'm writing. I don't give you a whole bunch of people of comments of, oh, this person went from rags to riches. Ouch, that one hurt. Okay, and there is a story behind everything, but the fact of the matter is, when you start looking at money as a means to an end or as a side effect, you will be so much happier. Take a look around the world. The people that seem the happiest are the ones that aren't worrying about what their finances are doing. And rest assured, millionaires and billionaires worry more about their money than you do. Okay, money has a purpose, but it is not, the primary purpose of it is not what people have been taught to believe. So many people go, hey, look at my bank account. I own this, that, and the other thing. That makes me better. Understand, most of the people that own their own homes. Okay, and for those of you that can't see, this is air quotes. Okay, most people that, I should have done that before. My apologies. Operation, you are in with the gold. Will Rider, you came in with the silver. And then Ferret, you just wandered in with the bronze. You know, most people that own their home, are mortgaged to the eyeballs, often with a second and third mortgage. Same as most of the people driving these great big $150,000 cars. Now, I don't know about you, but I look at the cars going, you got about 16 square inches of rubber that matters. Everything else is trapping. Now, money itself is a way to get the odds and ends without having to do that, without having to create a physical product. Okay, so I'm not against money, but I never learned to respect it for what it was. Okay, now I've got it very solidly planned out, and we'll go over that tomorrow. But the thing you got to remember with money itself, if money is your goal, you're on the wrong train. Money's got to be a side effect. Okay, if you take a look at a restaurant, just for example, okay, and they go, oh, I'm going to charge $15 for a plate. Okay, now that's what their goal is to make $15. But I'll tell you, it's not the food that's drawing the people. It is the atmosphere and the treatment. Okay, it's the customer service. That's what is drawing them in. A salesperson does not make a sale because, in most cases, because the price was set low enough. They sell the thing based on personality, but money gives a quantifiable way of marking that. Now, I do encourage you very seriously to really take a step back. It does not matter one iota how much money you've got, how far in debt you are, how far out of debt you are. It doesn't matter. You're all in literally the same boat. Okay. And that is the thing we've got to remember. Okay. I can tell you all kinds of stories about things I've seen that indicate this. But money is a matter of perception. Okay. And it really is a matter of interpretation. Let me ask you this. How many people, or have you yourself, turned around, got a bunch of money, and the way you treated people shifted according to the people around you? How many people have you ever heard of where they got a chunk of money in, they started essentially behaving differently? Okay, and all of a sudden the people that were around them go away. This is not because money is a bad thing. Chad, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Money itself, the only thing it does, if you've only got $1, if you've got $1 and bread only costs 50 cents, you can buy 2 loaves. Okay, if you have only 25 cents, you're going to have to pair up with somebody else. But if you've got $10, you can buy 20 loaves. That's the only thing money does. It's mathematics. I know that's a 4-letter word for some of you. But here's the kicker. Where it comes to money, money doesn't care how you feel. Money is not your friend. Conversely, it's also not your enemy. Now, as one person put it to me, he goes, I've been miserable rich and I've been miserable poor. Hands down, I would rather be miserable rich. Okay. Now, the tools I've talked about are literally, or more to the point, have literally now taken me from being a fraction of an inch away from being homeless to now having enough money in my bank to handle my own living expenses and a little more. So I'm no longer worried about, am I going to end up on the street? Okay, that is now covered. It's not the money that did it. It was a perception problem. Okay, and I'm telling you, I'd say anybody having money concerns, put your hand up. I'm thinking I'm not going to see a lot. Okay, I've got different vision, but that's a little bit much. Now, let me ask you, when you're looking at buying something, okay, now, I'm just going to use groceries for a moment. Okay, you've got just no-name tomato soup and name brand tomato soup. You know what you're paying for. Okay, sometimes the flavor is different, absolutely. But more often than not, you're paying for a name. Okay, and I will tell you, this is going right into Marketing 101. I intend at this point of taking my name and having it mean something beyond, as many people have told me, the man is off his rocker. Okay, yes, my ideas are a little bit off kilter. When you compare them to other people. But here's the backbone of making money work. Okay, this is that secret. There's lots of big, thick, incredible books, phenomenal courses, how to manage money. I'm going to give you a really bizarre concept. And here's what it's going to cost you. About 5 seconds of your time. Spend less than you earn. Now you're on the way up. Okay. Now, if you cut yourself back as far as you can, well, let's face it. Oh, you can't afford it. Cut back. How about a bizarre idea? Can't afford it. Earn more. Find a new way of earning money or capitalizing on what you've got. Prime example. Okay, I've got the live stream here, but the topics that come up here are going into print. Okay, now in Races of the World, okay, it's got multiple races that has branched off into several smaller books. Money itself, okay, again, like the governments make money real easy. Turn a dial, push a button, now there's more money on the market. By the way, that is a problem. Okay, and for those of you that are looking at your current situation going, I'm not being paid enough. Well, here's the kicker. If you're not happy with your wage, talk to your boss, point blank, and here's a neat little piece that most people miss. If the cost of living goes up, and if the cost of living goes up, or more to the point, if the minimum wage goes up, and you don't get a raise of the same amount, you just got a pay cut. Okay, it's that simple. But if you don't point this out, your boss is not going to do anything with it. But money itself is not going to physically put a roof over your head. Hate to tell you this, but eating it is not going to help. Okay, I mean, sure, you'll get your fiber and you might get some of your minerals, but I do not recommend eating your money. Okay, one of the biggest things we have to realize, most of us, myself included, were taught to fear money. Okay, this is why I love what the churches do, and I mean all of them. Okay, oh, money is the root of all evil, so give us your money, and we'll take care of it. If it is the root of all evil, why do the churches want it, and why does the government want it? Well, I will tell you this. I know some of your guys' opinion on the government, so it's pretty obvious if it's the root of all evil why they want it. But understand something. Okay, for those of you up in arms about paying taxes, okay, do you like paved roads? Now, I agree. Nobody should be exempt from taxes, especially when you're looking at the so-called elites and the religious factions, the one that have a lot of money. These are not the people who need tax breaks. Okay, but you've got to take a look at your cash flow and make sure on a shoestring, in other words, on very minimal income, you're able to make ends meet. Because I will tell you, if you can't do it, if you're not disciplined enough to handle your money when you've got virtually none, you're absolutely unlikely to be able to handle it when you've got enough to work with. This is just the reality behind it. Yeah, Operation goes, I've often eaten my words, but I've never eaten my money. No, that stuff's too expensive. Besides that, I can tell you it doesn't digest well. The thing we have to realize about money is it's time to stop fearing it. Okay? Money itself, I mean, let's face it, why fear it? Money doesn't move of its own accord. It doesn't get up and invest. It doesn't run away from you. Okay? And one thing is for absolute certainty. Money does not care how you feel. It has no interest in how you feel. If you're in a good mood, it's going to do its thing. If you're in a bad mood, money's going to do its thing. If you're in a neutral mood, money's going to do its thing. And get this, if you're living, money's going to do its thing. And if you're dead, it's going to continue doing its thing. Okay? But once you start figuring out that money is not the problem, then you learn how to talk to money, and much more importantly, you learn how to listen. Okay? And this is, as it turns out, what this last 2.5 years of depression was based on. My not hearing what the money was trying to tell me. As in, the money doesn't matter. Yes, you've got to have it to pay for the roof over your head. But the amount you've got, as long as your basics are covered, that's the only thing that matters. If you've got $1 million, well, the reality is, in my opinion, buying a $7 million home for one family is waste. Okay? If you got to buy a $7 million home for an apartment block, hey, absolutely. And we'll get to what to do with that later. Because I'm betting most of you don't own an apartment block. But there are some very fundamental truths about money. Okay. One of them is that spelled backwards, money says yenum, which really doesn't have much to do with anything. But the fact of the matter is, money itself has a purpose. It gives everybody something that you can look at and go, if that guy, if that politician has a $10 bill in his pocket and that farmer has a $10 bill in his pocket, both of them are holding on to the same amount of money. Their age, their weight, their sexual orientation, their political alignment, none of it matters. They're holding on to a $10 bill each. Okay, now we could look at that and go, well, the farmer worked for it and the politician got handed it, but something you don't get about politicians. Okay, politicians, if they're functional, do a lot of work. Okay, granted, they do not do the same type of work, but money itself doesn't care what you did. Okay, money is something that you've got to develop a symbiotic relationship with. Okay, now I don't know how many of you, if you actually know how to make money work. Okay, I've literally shown bankers how to make money work. Not the mathematical side. I cannot tell you, put $10 in at this interest rate and it comes out in 5 years at this amount. That's not what I do. Okay, but I can tell you, and quite frankly, tomorrow, we will walk through a method that will take your money and make it start to grow immediately. Now, immediately when it comes to money, sorry, that's days or weeks down the road. Immediately when I'm talking about changing your life, it's the moment you implement things. Okay, money itself has a very simple purpose: to pay for the exchange of goods and or services at a formerly agreed upon amount. So if the coffee shop says, you give me $8, I'll give you a cup of coffee. Okay, I personally am going to go, thanks so much. I'm going to take my $16 and I'm going to buy 3 weeks of coffee. Because I did find out something. Money's great, but I will tell you, having a great big bank account full of money, the money's not doing anything except making the banker money. Or more to the point, the bank owner money. Okay. The fact of the matter is, yes, you've got to look to the future, and for that, I encourage you to talk to a financial advisor. Oh, Lord, yeah, Operation. Operation is going, Keith, were there any lessons you learned about money from your past lives? Yeah, couple of things. Number one, I found out every time I had a staggering amount of money, okay, I'm bought into the same thing you guys, many of you have. And a bunch of you are sitting there going, I was never that way with money. I learned having a lot of money let me buy things, let me buy my way out of my own transgressions. Okay, but one of the best lessons I learned, okay, I spent a life as a safecracker. Okay, and I was good at it. I did it for one reason. Okay, the long and the short of it was I did it because I liked proving that I could do it. It was a challenge. But money itself does not change, it does not deal with people. But I will tell you this: I did learn firsthand that having a lot of money and losing it is just as bad as having no money and suddenly gaining it. You're completely out of the water. You're right out of your element. Okay. The people that are really wealthy and lose money end up on the street just like the poor people. And then, with that said, they have no clue how to cope. Okay. The other thing I did find out was poor people that are handing money around to help each other are way more respected than the wealthy people that are handing out, that are handing out $100 to a pauper. First, you're not doing the person any good. Remember that old saying? The old saying that goes, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for life. Well, for a person with only $10 in his pocket to turn around and hand you $1, okay, this is something that adds up. But I saw somebody the other day say and made a comment. I looked at it and went, really? And you want that to me, and you're trying to make that sound good? What the person said was they made a challenge and said, the first person that does this, I'm going to give $1 million to. Now, $1 million from somebody that only has 2 or 3 million is something else. That's something of a mark. This person had in excess, and I can't even tell you that, had billions upon billions of dollars. Now, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but 1 million out of several billion is like somebody with $100 handing somebody a penny and saying, oh, I'm being so generous. Here you go. Money itself is not the problem, nor is it the benefit. But it is the thing that we've got to look at because it gives you a quantifiable measuring point. Okay. And one of the biggest things you got to learn is that money itself, the moment you look at people that have a different amount than you do, and the moment you look at those people as being different, either better or worse, it doesn't matter. You've already lost the fight. But I come from a very different world where it comes to the handling of finances. In today's world, you're taught a couple of things. Go into debt to get whatever you desire in the immediate now. Okay? Then if the debt gets too high, just go bankrupt. Tell you the only people that ever benefit from bankruptcy are the bankruptcy trustee. You as an individual don't. Before I go any further down that road, if you're on the verge of bankruptcy, now I'm no financial advisor. Okay, understand I cannot tell you what the money is going to do. I can tell you the reality behind how to make it work. I'm living that reality. Okay, but when you're looking at money, money tells you what you're working with. It's a question of self-discipline. And that's something you may not have been taught. I'd lay odds you weren't. Most of you were not taught how money works. You were taught that's something that the adults take care of. And I always wondered, and now I know exactly what the answer is, but I always wondered, well, if you don't teach your kids to handle money, how are they going to learn to become the adults to teach their kids how to handle money? This is where we're running into the problem, is we're not taught how it works. So that's what we're going to be dealing with. Okay, money itself is just a marker. It's simple, and they used to call it that, by the way. Okay, but it is just a simple measuring stick to say, I've got this much buying power. It's kind of like if you happen to have, if you've got a bunch of car parts and you're trying to sell them, that's your working capital. Money is simply easier to move. Okay, by the way, it's easier to move It's easier to spend. It's easier to lose. The key is look at money not as an adversary. Look at it as a security blanket. Now, if you got a security blanket, are you going to throw it away? Okay. Or are you going to hang on to that security blanket, treat it properly, and get it to work so it work for you? So when you're cold, you got something to keep you warm. Now, money itself is, like I said, it's not the problem. It's greed and instant gratification that is causing the problem. Now, does this mean I'm better than anybody? Heck, I'm barely good at being me. Okay, but I will tell you, the amount I've remembered over the last few months has been mind-boggling. But you've got to learn to look in the mirror in the bank and go, okay, I've got this amount of money. This is good. I've got a little bit of a safety net. Now, the other thing, go ahead and swear at your money. Talk to it as nicely as you want. Either one, it's not going to change what it does. Nice part about money is it's not moody. Okay, the other thing I did find, okay, one of the things I found in one of my past lives there operation was I ended up with so much money that I literally had no use for it. Okay, so I would walk along literally, and this is not because I was better. Okay, it was a sick and twisted little game I played. I'd walk into Beggar Row with a number of bodyguards with me. Well, because frankly I didn't want to get mugged. Okay, but I'd walk into Beggar Row with a basket of money and I'd dump it on the ground. But my reasoning for it was not so philanthropical. It was literally I wanted to see them scramble for it because I was of the opinion I had all this money. Look at me, I'm so generous. I'll tell you, that bucket of money I dumped was nothing compared to the vault that I had that was still full. But it's like you, if you got a steady $1,000 a month coming in, and you walk outside and you toss a nickel towards a couple of beggars, okay, that was what I saw with the buckets of money I was throwing out. I did it for sport. Okay. So yeah, I've not always been, even now, I'm not that great of a person. Rest assured, I have a lot of flaws. But knowing that money does not make somebody better is not one of my flaws. Although I have dealt with millionaires that thought money did make them better. I remember one millionaire I was dealing with, and I kid you not, he's in a country club, and I'm walking by, and he goes, "Keith, go give me a drink. Go give me a drink." I looked at him and I said, "Why? You break both your legs?" He goes, "Well, you work here." I said, "Great, you can see." Now, bear in mind, this is a millionaire, okay? But he was treating me like garbage. And then he turns around and goes, "Go and do this. I own this and this and this and this." I looked at him and I said, "I don't really care." Now, do not ask me why I didn't get fired. Okay, I have no clue. Because that's just the way I've always been. But money itself has never and never can make you a better person. If you aren't a good person before you've got money, it's a good bet you're not going to be a good person after you get it, and vice versa. Okay, although I will tell you, a lot of money coming in one influx has a tendency of tainting your outlook on the world. And that is something I'm really cautioning you about. Now, the neat part about it is when you start to realize money does not care about you, but it's imperative you care about it. Because if you don't pay attention to what your money's doing, okay, it's going to cause a problem in your life in all probability. Money will not care what kind of mood you're in. That's why it will quite happily exchange hands for an alcoholic. Okay, alcohol goes, I need a drink. The money goes, yeah, let's go over there. And the alcohol comes back. But when you respect money, you learn in turn to respect yourself and your goals. Money is simply a focal point. That's all it is for. Okay, and with money comes this neat little idea of what can you afford to do. Okay, now do understand, if you've got $100 in the bank, you cannot afford to spend that $100 right off the bat, because you've got other bills you're going to have to compensate for. Now, yes, you can absolutely. How we doing, Blue graduating? So much for English. Glad you could join us. But, I am glad you managed to get in. The reality is money itself has a purpose. That money, its importance, is to give you a perspective on life. Period. That's it. It is not meant to tell you you're better or worse, because there are some real heavy workhorses that don't get paid as much as they should be. At least not in my opinion. Now, here's the neat thing about it. When you're looking at money, okay, if you don't realize the importance of it for down the road. Now, for me, down the road is not far enough down the road to work with. For you, if you're anywhere prior to 30 years old, get to a financial advisor, okay, one that you trust, to figure out what kind of money you're going to require based on a 5% per year cost of living increase. Now you're going, why look at the 5% per year? When the percentage increase right now is 2 to 3 and 2 to 4%, why look at a 5% increase? Well, reality check, they don't know for certain what it's going to be. Saving more for the future means you don't have to do what I'm doing. Okay, means you don't have to struggle with the way I'm having to struggle. Now, if you want to do that, have a happy. Have an absolute happy. Okay, but I'm telling you, it's not all it's cut out to be. Money itself simply gives you an idea, a way of quantifying how well you're doing in a materialistic world. But if you swapped all your focus into how much do you have, how much are you getting paid? Okay, I'm telling you, you missed the boat. Okay, and the odds are you're going to be struggling later in life. Those of you that get the idea and start squirreling it away, and yes, absolutely, that neat little consulting line and link in Buy Me a Coffee will get you to me. Okay, so will a number of the books I've written going through the Buy Me a Coffee. But here's the kicker. The moment you start seeing money as a way of gauging whether you're a good person, you've already lost the argument. It really is a good thing I filled up with water. Can you picture the shape I'd be in if I was drinking that like I used to alcohol? The reality of it is money itself is a marker. It is simply a way of gauging where you're standing. That's always fun. Turn on a fan, I can see straight to a degree. But when you're looking at the world, okay, and especially the world of money, the world of finance, the purpose of money, the importance of it is it gives you a way of gauging where you are today as compared to where you were yesterday. Now, I keep getting told by people, I don't know how to handle my money. Okay, and yet, you look at January, February, and March. Okay, now March I can't quantify yet. The last 2 months, January and February, I had more at the end of the month than I had at the beginning. Now, this says I'm not spending as much as what I'm making. Okay, and rest assured, I'm not making that much. But that is changing. And one of the things we have to remember with money, okay, money is not the root of all evil. Greed, and more importantly, fear is. One of the things that we have to remember, and this was pointed out to me just the other day, if you're struggling with money and you seem to miss opportunity after opportunity, think about it. Are you possibly afraid of having a surplus income? Okay, that may be your holdup. And I have no doubt it was part of mine. Okay, now I know what I'm doing. Now I've got it all laid out. And tomorrow when we start looking at it, I think it's tomorrow. I'm just looking up to make sure I put this right. Yeah. No, not tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be an interesting one, but it's got nothing to do with money. Okay. Monday, we are going to be looking at literally how to handle your money as it comes in the door. Okay. As the money comes in. Money itself right now, what I suggest you do over the course of the next few days. Okay. Get to know your money. This is going to sound like I'm completely whacked. But take a look at your cash and literally tell it what you desire to have. Okay, go. This is what I desire, so thank you for providing that for me. Okay, back at the beginning of January, I went, no, I got to get this straightened around. Guys, I require a higher income than my outlay. Okay, and I had dozens and dozens of times where I'd go out for dinner just because I didn't want to cook. And money would be sitting there going, Keith, don't do that. You desire to have that much money. You're going to have to you're going to have to stop spending stupidly. And stupidly, by the way, I don't know if people like the word. For me, it's simple. If you're doing something out of pure ignorance, out of true ignorance, you're doing it because you don't know better. Okay? If you're doing it and you know better, then you're doing it out of sheer stupidity. The important thing I really desire you guys to get straightened out today is that money itself has a purpose, and it is extremely important in today's world. Now, before somebody gets to that point, the Galactic Consortium literally calculates man hours as currency. Okay, and I'll explain that on another day. Won't be today, won't be tomorrow. Money itself, get it straight in your head what you desire to have. Now I'll tell you, it's a lot easier to spend $100,000 and buy a small shack than it is to take $100,000 and build a small shack from those coins. Okay, it's just that easy. The hardest part in all of this is realizing that money itself is not the problem. Money itself is either going to exacerbate the problem or enhance the benefit. Sorry, that's enhance. Okay. No, I'm not sorry. I stumbled on it. Anyway, enough is enough. Money is either going to afford you to live in the lap of luxury, or you're going to lose everything and you'll be living on the street. Your call. I'm here to tell you I've got tools and techniques that can, no matter what state your world is in. Okay. Now, I can't do anything. I'm not going to tell you, look, if you've got a government check, it's secured. I'm going to tell you flat out, be aware the entire economy, the entirety of civilization is on very shaky ground. Money itself, in this case, can be your friend, but it boils down to getting to understand what it actually does. You know, the reality of it is, when we start looking at money itself, what is its purpose? Why is it so important? Well, it's important because number one, it does give you a marker where you stand in this world. But one of the biggest reasons it's listed as being important is because people are not taught how to handle it. We're going to change that. Okay. On this stream, we're going to change that. Not overnight. This is going to take a lot of work, and I cannot do it for you. I can tell you what's got to be done, and I will disclose what it's been doing for me. Okay. But the reality of it is, we're working at trying at streamlining positive perceptions to cover a number of different topics. This is one of them. Okay, it's that simple. But it's time to put our heads together and make it work properly. You know, it's a challenge to say the least. And rest assured, I've been living barely keep my roof over my head for years. Okay. And with that in mind, I figured out what I was doing wrong. And yes, you can correct it as well. It's just not going to take you long to figure it out because I'm going to give you the keys. Okay, then you get to figure it. Christine, how you doing? Glad you could join us. You know, and absolutely. Now, I will tell you, I don't know specifically. Well, that would be classified as wasteful. You know, the reality is, Christine, we're working on, and you know, I say we are working on. I tried it a number of months back, where I literally was striving to get things running on a static base. But what I'm finding is that having things organized will make it easier to implement. Okay, this is why we're now looking at, and I'll post it on Facebook, I'll post on Okay, I'll be posting on Facebook and other social media, but I'm going to write down a breakdown so that we have a schedule in the May edition of Positive Perspectives. Now, that's more a note to me than it is to anybody else. Okay, but what we have to realize with money is either going to be one of your best friends or one of your greatest adversaries. It's up to you to decide which. Okay, and the reality is you're likely going to have to remind yourself time and again. I gotta check something here because I think I know what the problem is. Well, that might explain the dizzy. It's not a lack of food, don't get me wrong on that one. May have something to do with getting to bed at what was it, 11 o'clock last night and getting back up at 2 this morning. Not conducive for being able to see straight, but at least I don't have to drive. Money itself, we're going to figure out over the next few months how to make money your friend, regardless of how much money you've got coming in. Okay, because we handle money based on a formula, not based on you need $50,000 to survive. You know, I actually had a financial advisor one day, took a look at my finances, and he goes, you know, I'm not going to tell you can't live on this, because you are. But he says, do you have 10 minutes to tell me how you pulled that off? This is the gift that I was given. Understanding how money works. I cannot tell you percentages. Okay, I can't give you growth curves. That's somebody else's department. But I can tell you how to make it work for you. Now, with this in mind, guys, tomorrow and starting from here on out, on Sunday, we are going to be dealing with various different alien races and technologies. Tomorrow, we are starting off with the ever popular gray, the Zeta Reticulans. You're going to get to find out a whole pile of things. And by the way, got a newsflash for you for tomorrow. But we will be back again tomorrow, 9 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Pacific, you figure it out from there. Okay, with that in mind, I want to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with us tonight. Really appreciate it. And, in all fairness, you guys have given me a lot of inspiration to stay on the straight and narrow. But until we talk again, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes,